mashinani, na wanaumia zaidi ni watoto wa shule. Bwana Spika, watoto wetu siku hizi wameanza kujiua kwa sababu wakikula madawa ya kulevya kufikiria kwao kunakuwa ni duni. Tujiulize swala moja, Bwana Spika. Kenya hatuna shamba la cocaine wala hatuna shamba la heroin. Haya madawa yote ya kulevya yanatoka nje. Ni wapi ambapo kuna ulegevu ambapo inaruhusu madawa haya kuingia katika nchini? Kama vile ndugu yangu amesema, kuna baadhi ya vitengo vya usalama ambao wanajua ni kina nani wanaleta mihadarati, wanajua ni kina nani wanauza mihadarati, lakini watu hawa hawawezi kushikwa kwa sababu wanalindwa na wanalipa baadhi ya polisi wetu ili waweze kuwalinda waendelee na biashara yao haramu. Ni wakati mwafaka, Bwana Spika, kama taifa sisi sote bila kulaumu mtu yote tujitolee kama Wakenya kusema kwamba swala la mihadarati ni lazima liharamishwe katika nchi yetu kwa sababu linahatarisha usalama wa kitaifa. Asante Bwana Spika kwa kunipatia nafasi.
Bwana Katana, tayari limeharamishwa. Is unlawful to be found with drugs.
Bwana Spika, ndio tunasema vitengo vya usalama vimelegea. Ni lazima kwa sababu hatuna mashamba letu. Asante Bwana Spika.
Benja will be the last.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the honorable member for bringing up this matter. Mr. Speaker, drugs are threatening to kill our whole generation, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as the committee looks at this matter, I want to propose to them that the committee should look at who are the actors, Mr. Speaker, where are the failures in terms of enforcement, Mr. Speaker. And number three, Mr. Speaker, much more important, is we might accuse NACADA for not performing, but we must also look at the law that establishes NACADA, whether we can propose amendments to that law to give it more powers, more teeth, Mr. Speaker, so that they can be able to act accordingly, Mr. Speaker. So I support the statement.
Chair Security, Owen Bayer.
Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Tongo is not here, neither is the Vice Chair Colonel is not here.
Inform them to bring a report, an answer in the next 2 weeks.
2 weeks, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Taita Taveta. Member for Taita Taveta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Member for Mwatate, sorry.
It's Mwatate.
Mwatate, Bwana Mbogo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity you've given me to give my statement. My statement reads.
You should tender an apology to the House for coming late. This is the second time I'm calling you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, for coming late.
Yes.
I was tied up somewhere in the hospital. I had gone to see a patient. Sorry for that.
Go ahead.
Request for statement regarding the rise of insecurity in Taita Taveta County. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the provision of Standing Order 44-2C, I wish to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security regarding the recent rise of insecurity in Taita Taveta, particularly in Voi and Mwatate constituencies. Honorable Speaker, the rise of insecurity in Taita Taveta County has negatively impacted not only the safety but the well-being of the residents, particularly in Voi and Mwatate constituencies. The constituencies have experienced a number of insecurity incidences in the last 5 months, with people being killed and borders stolen. For instance, in May 2024, Mr. Marian Charlie Chow of ID number 278 97833 was found dead at a satellite site around Rianchore hillside with multiple cut wounds. Additionally, a border rider, Mr. Dunningston Makio Mangombe of ID number 1382264, was found dead on 14th April 2024 in Voi Central Business District, and his border stolen. On May 28, 2024, Mr. Silas Silomengo Machongo, a border rider in Ronge Ward, was found dead in Voi constituency and his border stolen, while Mr. Julius Mafuga of ID number 299-51391 was allegedly beaten to death by a police officer from Matate Police Station in May 2024. Further, Mr. Sylvans Manjala Mvoi of ID number 370-23429 was attacked and severely injured on 2nd September 2024 within Sagala Ward in Taita Taveta County, and his border stolen. He was rushed to Moi County Referral Hospital for treatment and later referred to Kilimanjaro Christian Medical Center in Moshi, Tanzania, where he succumbed to the injuries. The matter was reported to Voi Police Station under OB number 63/03/09/2024. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I request for a statement from the Chairperson of Departmental Committee on Administration and Internal Security on the following. 1. Provide a report on the status of investigation into the incidences, including the death and attacks reported to Voi Police Station. 2. The action being taken to ensure the perpetrators of the crimes are arrested and prosecuted without delay. And 3. The measures being put in place to curb insecurity in the region. I thank you, Honorable Speaker, on Peter Mbogo, MP Mwatate constituency.
Thank you, Honorable Mbogo. Owen Baya, inform Tongoyo to bring a response in 2 weeks.
If you allow me to say something.
Yes.
This is the 4th statement, request of statement on insecurity in Taita Taveta that I have had. I remember Danson Mwashako raised it, and I think another member also raised it. It doesn't seem to go away. And I have had them mention somebody I know from Rongeju. And Honorable Speaker, I think we need to look at a different, this just bringing of statements and stating facts the way they are without looking for a solution to the problem is making us act in vain. Probably, Honorable Speaker, you may need to give a direction that something be done, because a statement will be written, it will be brought here, it will be read, and no action is being done to ensure there is security in Taita Taveta. So, Honorable Speaker, even when we give these statements, some action needs to be done. And I don't know what direction you will give, but I have had my mother's relative having been killed. They will finish those people and I'll have no uncles left. So, Honorable Speaker, I think we need a much more robust action on the ground, whether you need to order those people there to sit down and review the security there and give us a report. Otherwise, somebody will sit at the headquarters, write a report, and tell us, yes, it happened, this day happened, this thing happened, and that is what it is, as it is. And it does not help to solve the problem. We would like to have a solution there, and this Parliament can enforce the solution, Honorable Speaker.
The next minister to appear before the House is likely to be security, so be ready to confront him with the questions, including insecurity in Mwatate. In the meantime, the members elected to come to the House to be answered by the committee, so the committee chair will bring a response in 2 weeks. But Mr. Mbogo, Honorable Mbogo, I'll give you an opportunity when the minister comes for you to prosecute that concern. Next, Gonzirai, member for Kinango.
Yes, sir. Honorable Speaker, pursuant to the Provincial Standing Order 44 into brackets 2 into brackets C, I rise to request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations regarding the safety of Ms. Riziki Luvuno Mambo, holder of passport number AK 325501, who went missing in Saudi Arabia in March 2024. Honorable Speaker, Madam Riziki Luvuno Mambo has been residing in Saudi Arabia since July 2023, when she moved there for employment. However, her family, with whom she maintained regular communication, claims to have lost contact with her on the 12th of March 2024, raising concerns about her safety and whereabouts. Following her lack of communication, the family received reports on 23rd of April 2024 that they said that she had been arrested and was being held at Jeddah Sawara police station in Saudi Arabia. It is alleged that she was found in a state of distress, wandering the streets, and appeared to be suffering from mental health condition. Efforts by the family to secure her repatriation to Kenya have not been successful. Honorable Speaker, it is against this background that I request for a statement from the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Affairs on the following. 1. The circumstances surrounding the arrest of Madam Riziki Luvuno Mambo by the Saudi Arabia police. 2. Steps that the relevant government agencies
that uphold justice, equality, and the democratic principles that define us. Notably, Honorable Speaker, this matter transcends party lines and speaks to our commitment to good governance, accountability, and fidelity to the Constitution and the rule of law. Indeed, as the Indian author and philanthropist Rohin Nilekani once said, we cannot be mere consumers of good governance. We must be participants, and we must be co-creators of good governance. I end the quote. Honorable Speaker, having said that, in accordance with the provisions of Standing Order 42A, 5 and 6, I wish to convey that the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Administration is scheduled to appear before the House on the afternoon of Wednesday, 9th October 2024, to respond to the following questions. And just like the Honorable Speaker told the member for Mwatate, this is the time that probably he needs to bring those questions. And that day, on the Wednesday, 9th October 2024, the first question by private notice will be question number 008 of 2024 by the member for Lugari, the Honorable Nabwera Nabi, MP, regarding circumstances that led to the death of two brothers, Mr. Bonventure Ounza of ID number 380-63032 and Mr. Callistus Apuike of ID number 41-444-793 by police based at Santo Police Station. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, is the question by private notice number 11 of 2024 by the member for Moyale, the Honorable Professor Jaldesa Guyo Wako, the gynecologist, regarding the status of the investigations into the shooting of Ms. Kabale Galgalo Guyo of ID number 3976-3161 around Kangemi Mosque in Nairobi County. The next question is question number 271 of 2023. This is a 2023 question, Honorable Speaker, by the member for Laisamis, the Honorable Joseph Locuton, MP, regarding staffing of births and registration offices in Laisamis and Loyangalani sub-counties. Question number 02 of 2024, Honorable Speaker, by the member for Matungu, the Honorable Oscar Peter Nabulindo, MP, regarding the surge in cases of livestock theft in the Western region and in particular Matungu constituency. Another question, number 3 of 2024, by the member for Kinango, the Honorable Gonzi Rai, who I saw around here is regarding the deployment of the contingent of General Service Unit GSU to Kazamoyo Village in Kwale County. Question number 5 of 2024 by the member for Bahati, the Honorable Irene Njoki MP, regarding the replacement of the vehicle with registration plate number GKB 340J assigned to Deputy County Commissioner for Nakuru North Sub-County. The other question, Honorable Speaker, is question number 37 of 2024 by the member for Isiolo South, the Honorable Tubi Budi MP, regarding the special vetting of ID cards applications carried out by the Ministry for the residents from northeastern and other border regions of the country. The next question is question number 45 of 2024 by the member for Fafi, the Honorable Yakub Farah, MP, regarding actions taken by the government to enhance security in Fafi constituency. The next question, Honorable Speaker, is question number 48 of 2024 by the member for Emuhaya, the Honorable Omboko Milemba, MP, regarding the security of the non-local teachers in Mandera County and border northeastern regions. Again, on the cards, Honorable Speaker, is question number 050 of 2024 by the member for Kilome, the Honorable Thaddeus Zambia, MP, regarding the criteria for gazettement of the Nzai sublocation in Makueni constituency. Honorable Speaker, next is the question number 59, 2024, by the nominated member, Hon Irene Mayaka, MP, regarding statistics of fully operational gender desk equipment in police stations in the country to deal with gender-based violence in the country. Again, Honorable Speaker, there's a question number 123 of 2024 by the member for Yatta, the Honorable Robert Basil, MP, regarding the omission of Yatta Sub-County Administrative Unit from the Gazette number 1766 of 14 February 2024. I'm coming to the end, Honorable Speaker, and the second to last question is question number 124 of 2024 by the member for Kiambu, the Honorable Mashua Waithaka, MP, regarding delay in issuing national ID cards within Kiambu constituency. And lastly, Honorable Speaker and members, is question number 126 of 2024 by the member for Sigor, the Honorable Peter Lochakapong, MP, regarding the number and contractual details of the employees recruited by the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, UNHCR, to the Department of Refugees. Honorable Speaker, Tuesday is the day we reconvene. Honorable Speaker, we have a long agenda, a big agenda for that day, and as members depart for public participation, I wish them journey masses and good public participation. And therefore, in conclusion, Honorable Speaker, the House Business Committee will reconvene on Monday, 7th October 2024 to schedule business for the rest of that week. This is Monday, not Tuesday, Monday 7th, Honorable Speaker. So members of the House Business Committee be notified so that we'll schedule business for the rest of the week. I now wish to lay this statement on the table of the House today. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and good luck.
Thank you, Honorable Owen Bayer. Honorable members, we'll now go to questions. The Honorable Aden Bare Duale, Minister for Environment, or Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry, is already in the House. Welcome, Waziri. We'll now go to questions. In the interest of time, try to be as precise and concise as you can. Members, I'll only allow one joyrider on each question. No more than that. We'll start with the member for Alego Usonga, Honorable Samuel Atandi. You look surprised, Atandi?
No. I'm not surprised, Honorable Speaker.
Yeah.
I'm aware that the Cabinet Secretary for Environment is supposed to come to
He's
respond to my
already here.
question. Yes.
So go ahead and ask your question if you are ready, or we move to the next.
Honorable Speaker, let me get the question. In the meantime, you can go to the next question. I don't have the question ready.
Question 105 of 2024, member for Chepalungu.
Oh, thank you.
Victor Koech Mandazi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I have the question.
Mandazi, you are... go back to the bar and bow and come back.
Honorable Speaker, I'm ready.
Go ahead, Honorable Attorney.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, my question is number 304 of 2023.
Yes.
And the question is, one, could the Cabinet Secretary explain why the National Environment Management Authority, NEMA, issued a license for the construction of residential properties along Othaya Road, Kileleshwa on LR number 33734/338, despite the potential environmental impact caused by the developer? Number two, state why NEMA permitted the construction of the said building to proceed without public participation. Number three, explain why the developer has been able to continue constructing the said illegal structures even after repeated requests and petitions from concerned residents. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, it's a privilege to come back to this house, which is my second home, a house that I have a lot of respect for and members that I have a lot of regard for. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Attorney asked a number of questions. In the interest of time, Speaker, I want to state that my ministry and agencies that are under me, like NEMA, are fully committed to upholding the Environmental Management and Coordination Act, Cap 387, and all its regulations as passed by this House, with the primary objective of ensuring environmental protection and sustainable development. Mr. Speaker, let me say it for record, that environmental protection for this generation and the future generation is found in the preamble of the Kenyan Constitution. So it's not even an article of the Constitution. There are many articles, but the preamble of our Constitution talks about protecting our environment for this generation and the future. Coming to the specific question, in the case of the proposed residential development, LR number 3734/338 on Othaya Road, Kileleshwa, allow me to note that the following why NEMA issued a license for the construction. The said developer, named Dirty Land Company, sought to construct a 314-story building consisting of 224 residential units. Given the scale of this project, Mr. Speaker, it was classified as a high-risk undertaking as defined by Section 58(1) of MCA as passed by this House, and legal notice number 31 of 2019. As per the law, any high-risk project, Mr. Speaker, is required to undergo a thorough environmental impact assessment process to assess if there are any environmental impacts. An environmental impact assessment, Mr. Speaker, was conducted through a NEMA-registered EIA expert called Neolife Consultants Limited, and the report was submitted to NEMA for review and ultimate to give a license. The reference number of that environmental impact assessment, Mr. Speaker, is attached, and the member has. Same, Mr. Speaker, NEMA reviewed the report, found it adequately addressed all the potential environmental impacts, supported by a detailed environmental and social management plan. The Nairobi City County, Mr. Speaker, or the Nairobi City County government approved the same development plan, and then NEMA issued the environmental impact license number NEMA EAA PSL 8261 on 7th July 2020 with conditions of sustainable development and sound environmental management of the proposed project, which to date NEMA, under its obligation, does continuous monitoring. Honorable Speaker, in conclusion, I wish to affirm the Ministry's dedication to safeguarding the environment while balancing the need for sustainable development that contributes to Kenya's socio-economic growth. Our action remains aligned with both the national and international environmental standards. Honorable Speaker, the second question that the member have asked my good friend Honorable Atandi was state the reasons why NEMA permitted the construction of the said building to proceed without public participation. Honorable Speaker, on the onset, allow me to know that public participation is a critical and a principle in our Constitution. It is also a very integral part of any environmental impact process, assessment process, as mandated by Section 59 and Section 60 of the Environmental Management and Coordination Act, and above all, Regulations 19 of the Environmental Impact Assessment and Environmental Assessment Regulation 2003, passed by this August House. For this project, I wish to confirm public participation, Mr. Speaker, was conducted as follows, and it's there in the documents that I've provided to the House and to the member. NEMA dispatched copies of the Environmental Impact Assessment report to 9 lead agencies on the 4th of March 2019 for sectoral review and comments as required by Article 20 of the Environmental Impact Assessment Regulations. These entities include the Ministry of Environment ourselves, the County Physical Planning of Nairobi, the Water Resource Authority, Kenya Urban Authority, Roads Authority, National Land Commission, Public Health Office officials of Nairobi County, Nairobi City Water and Sewerage Company, and finally Nairobi County Director of Environment. NEMA also, Mr. Speaker, had issued a proponent with a notice of publication on the 1st of March 2019 to invite the public to make oral or written comments on the Environmental Impact Assessment Study report. It was captured in all the daily papers. In the Star on Wednesday, 13th March 2019, again on the Star on the 20th March 2019, on the Kenya Gazette Notice number 2531 of 15th March 2019, in nearly about 4 radios, 4 classified adverts per day. NEMA received again varied public comments as detailed in the attached. Consequently, a public consultation meeting was held on the proposed site on the 27th of June 2019 with the participation from 62 residents. The minutes of the public consultation, Mr. Speaker, are attached. And that's why this House is going on a recess tomorrow to do public participation. It is central to our Constitution. Nobody can avoid it. Neither can NEMA has the luxury to avoid it. A major concern raised by the residents was conformity to zoning policy of the area and the number of floors, connection to the sewer. All these were addressed, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me make it very clear as the new minister to this docket. Zoning, sewerage, all these are functions of the county government of Nairobi. And the Senate has a role to call the governor or his officials to the same. Speaker, in the view of that, I have just highlighted there was indeed meaningful public participation and information disclosure of the project. Question 3, Mr. Speaker, was why the developer has been able to continue constructing the said illegal structure even after repeated requests. Mr. Speaker, the construction has continued despite several petitions by some of the concerned residents. I am indeed aware that the residents have lodged petitions with NEMA and other government bodies, Residents were also advised to appeal for a tribunal independent evaluation on NEMA. Speaker, this House, in its mandate in making laws and regulations, has given the citizens recourse to appeal. If you are not happy with the NEMA decision, then you go to the NEMA Complaints Committee. If you are not happy, then you go to the independent environmental tribunal chaired by somebody of a standing of a judge of the High Court. And reputable institutions like Law Society of Kenya, Mr. Speaker, have their representation. So the members were advised to go there, and the Speaker, since there was no court order, nobody has gone to the tribunal, nobody has gone for an independent evaluation of the NEMA decision. NEMA and the other agencies continue to monitor with the compliance with the environmental impact assessment. Mr. Speaker, finally, I wish to reiterate the following. The Ministry through NEMA remains committed to ensuring all full compliance with the Environmental Management and Coordination Act and its regulations as passed by the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. I think we're going to give one joyrider. Let me see. The Honorable Gitonga Murugar, member for Tharaka Nithi. Oh, you're on the intervention button. The Honorable Zamzam. Oh no, she's pulled it out. Yes, I was going to allow you after one joyrider. Then you can respond, but we can go to you directly if there are no people. Proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me say that the response by the Cabinet Secretary appears satisfactory. And given that also is new, I don't want to put a lot of pressure on him. The only observation that I want to make based on his response is that it appears these matters will be dealt more by the county government of Nairobi County Government is one that should take a lot of blame on this matter, because the initial concern was that that area is zoned and the buildings that are coming up are beyond the guidelines of the particular zoning. So it means that the Nairobi County Government has allowed these structures to go up beyond the guidelines of the zoning. But what I wanted to ask the minister is that these buildings are coming up and issues like drainage, the sewerage systems of the area have not been improved or expanded. Don't you think that as the minister in charge of environment, this is something that should concern you, that structures are going up even to 20th floor, yet these structures are also important. So are they not going to affect the environmental aspects of the county? And going forward, things like flooding, you saw what happened during the recent flooding. One of the issues that was raised is that we are not respecting the environmental orders. So I wanted to ask you, the minister, because you are new, and this is something that I know you are capable of addressing, can you tell us how you are going to address these concerns? Because that's the biggest problem. The other issues, as you have explained, we are going to see how they can be addressed by the county government of Nairobi, because it appears that the county government of Nairobi is also supposed to ensure some of this compliance. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. I think we can go to the next question. Honorable Luku, the time has gone up for that. You're a member for Chabalungu. You may go to your question, 105/2024.
Yeah, thank you, Speaker. I would wish that the Cabinet Secretary before us today, I would like to read my question as follows. That could the Cabinet Secretary confirm the presence of Lalela Company Limited and Naraitoi Company Limited that are engaging in large-scale irrigation-based farming along Amalo River that is bordering Chepalungu constituency? Number 2, confirm the allegation made by the residents of surrounding villages, including Chemengwa, Kinyanga, Kobalwa, Kosia, Kamosiro, Nogirwet, and Kamongil area that the said companies are engaging in cloud seeding activities, resulting in alterations to the local rainfall patterns, with some villages experiencing a complete lack of rain throughout the year, despite other areas of the constituency receiving rainfall. Number 3, Speaker, state the steps that the ministry intends to take to address the concerns raised by the affected areas residents. Thank you, Speaker.
Cabinet Secretary, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Just to, if you allow me, Honorable Atandi has raised it. The Constitution and the people of Kenya in their wisdom, have allowed separation of powers between the two levels of government. Zoning, waste management, pollution, whether it's air, sound, is a function of counties. But I want to assure this House, now that I'm the Minister for Environment, we will not issue a license. We will be the ones. If we don't issue, nobody can build. And I want members to help us and help the country. People are building flats that the people who live in those flats, in those residential areas, have no access to light, they have no access to fresh air, and you can imagine, if you have young children, those children will not grow. I'm not a doctor. Dr. Pukose and the doctors who are sitting in this house and those who are listening will agree with me. But I have given NEMA strict instructions that is not going to be business as usual. On Honorable Koet, Madam Deputy Speaker, I want to confirm that there is the existence of these two companies, one in Narok West constituency, bordering Chapalungu constituency. And I also wish to confirm that these companies practice large-scale farming using irrigation. The second question, Madam Speaker, was to confirm the allegations made by the residents of those 5 or 6 villages that the said companies are engaged in something called cloud seeding. Madam Speaker, on the second question, if you allow me, let me, they're engaged in cloud seeding. Before I proceed, let me try to respond to this question and allow me briefly to explain to the House what cloud seeding is all about. Cloud seeding is where weather modification technique that changes the amount or the type of precipitation from the clouds in terms of rain. There has been research aimed at establishing whether this is viable, but all studies have shown that the input expenses are far more than the benefits. Madam Speaker, the ministry is not aware, through our meteorological department, that such entities are engaging in cloud seeding activities within the said locality. On the alteration of rain patterns in the area of interest, Madam Deputy Speaker, data available to us from the neighboring Longisa automatic station owned by Kenya Meteorological Department indicates that there has been an increase in the annual rainfall in that area totals as from 2018 to 2023, and I have attached the figure and the maps to this document, which I've shared with the members. Secondly, Madam Deputy Speaker, the member asked to allow me to highlight that what the ministry, through the Meteorological Department, has done. The Meteorological Department, the Kenya Meteorological Department, has recently installed automatic weather stations in Chapalungu constituency and all its environments. However, specific variability in the specific locations could not be established due to lack of data. Our ministry and our department will continue monitoring the data for analysis to draw adequate information. And I want to assure you, once we make a policy formulation, we will forward to address this issue, and we will not allow our communities to be aggrieved. Madam Speaker, the third question was the steps the ministry intends to take to address the concern raised by the affected residents. Honorable Madam Speaker, on the last question, allow me from the onset to commit and to state our commitment towards protecting the interests of our local communities. To this end, in addressing the concerns of the affected residents, I commit to do a follow-up with the Ministry of Water and its agency, the Water Resource Authority, to ascertain the abstraction of water from both River Amalo and River Nyangores, as mentioned. And we will report back to this House in very, very due course within 2 weeks. Further, going forward, we hope that by the enactment of the meteorological bill, which is before the House, the meteorological department will have the powers to regulate weather-related activities in the country. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Before I allow one interjection and then the owner of the question to confirm whether he's satisfied with the answer by the Cabinet Secretary, allow me first to welcome very special guests who are seated in the Speaker's Gallery from Kisii County. Mr. Moega Onchweri, Mrs. Moega, Wakili Wycliffe Moega, and for Claire Ombati. And I think I'll allow the Honorable Sylvanus Osoro, to welcome them on behalf of the National Assembly. He will explain.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I had to make this very, very special request, which is again unprecedented in this House, to welcome very, very special guests to me, because Mr. Moenga Onchweri picked me from the streets and took me to school upon the demise of my parents. This is a very special guest to me. It's a very emotional thing to me, because when he actually came where somebody had given me a small casual job of welding after I had dropped out of school, he picked me and decided to take me to school, back to school, educated me until I finished. And ironically, I mean, one thing that is very special, Honorable Speaker, is that this is the first time that Mr. Moenga is stepping his feet in Parliament at 78 years old. And when I made a request to this House, Honorable Speaker, and to the leadership of this House, they agreed to have them sit there so that they see what we do in this House and to see their product. But again, on the flip side, Honorable Speaker, I got surprised today when I welcomed Mr. Moenga that he also knows the Honorable Member for Kisii County, the Honorable Doris Donya Aburi. He also educated Honorable Donya Aburi, because they actually happen to come from, they happen to come also from the same village. So he's a very, very special person. His dream to become a member of Parliament years back did not materialize for Nyaribari Chache constituency, but I've just told him that by me being member of Parliament, and Honorable Aburi, member of Parliament, is actually a double victory. So, and that is why I made this very special request. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Okay, thank you. Yes, the Honorable Donya Deris will give you 3 minutes.
Madam Speaker, the beauty of Samaritans, I'm always talkative, but when I look at them, today I'm very humble. I've eaten a lot of vegetables, because parents and Samaritans are the best thing that God can give. You can even attest, Honorable Soro, you can think he was reading the Bible. He's also come because the parents are there. See what the parents, Madam Speaker, have done to us. Today we can't even Gachagua anybody. We are just good. We are very obedient. And please, honorable members, M-Pesa your parents, please. Parents believe girls are the one who give them food, who send them M-Pesa, unlike the boys. Now we change it, honorable members, the male. Please, those who are here today, send your mom some M-Pesa and make it 10,000 and above. Even CS, Honorable Duale, I will come for 100,000 from you. I send to my mother. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Okay, now thank you for the digression. I think we can proceed. I'll give one honorable member to add their question, Honorable Zamzam, member for Mombasa, and then we will go back to the member for Chebalungu to confirm if you're satisfied with the answer.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, na mimi niweze kumshukuru mzee kwa kuweza, mzee Mwenga, kwa kuweza kulea hawa vijana wawili. Leo ni wabunge ambao sisi tunawacelebrate hapa ndani ya hili bunge. Na mimi imenikumbusha sana mzee marehemu Yusuf Haji, na yeye pia aliweza kunisomesha, na ndio maana mnaona jambo lolote likija hapa la Nurdin Haji, yule ni ndugu yangu, lazima nitampigia upatu. Na sisi ambao tumetoka katika familia maskini, Mheshimiwa Spika, tukasomeshwa, tukanyanyuliwa na wale ambao wanatuonea huruma. Siku zote sisi huwa na huruma, na ndio maana naona turudi kwenye jamii na tuwazidisha upendo kwa wale ambao hawawezi kujimudu katika masomo, na sisi pia tuweze kuwasaidia. Mheshimiwa Spika, nafikiri vile nimepata fursa kabisa nimuulize waziri wa mazingara, na niweze kwanza kumpongeza kuja katika bunge. Asante sana bwana waziri, tunakushukuru sana. Mimi nilikuwa nataka kuuliza, umesema kuwa kuna haya mambo ya mazingara ya sewage na nini ni mambo ya county, lakini hata tukiangalia Mombasa county, Mheshimiwa waziri, ukiangalia pale Chuda, maji taka sewage inaingia ndani ya bahari, na imekaa miaka mingi sana. Wale watoto ambao wanakaa kule katika sehemu zile za slums wanaenda wakiogelea kule. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kwa sababu watu wamejenga majumba bila kuangalia njia zao za sewage zitakwenda vipi, zote wamezielekeza kwenye bahari. Mheshimiwa waziri, kwa hiyo mimi nakuomba kama unaweza kulifuatilia. Umesema ni akaunti, lakini mimi nakusihi, maana yake wakati mwingine barua ikitoka kwa waziri, pengine jambo laweza likafuatiliwa likafanywa kwa wepesi. Mheshimiwa waziri, kisha nauliza Mheshimiwa waziri, unapanda miti ya matunda. Mimi kama mama Mombasa County nimezunguka nikaangalia, miti ya nazi imekuwa chache sana ndani ya pwani, na kuomba kama mama Mombasa utuletee miche ya nazi ili tuweze kupanda kama matunda, na miche ya maembe iwe ni chakula na pia itaweza kuleta mvua. Asante sana Mheshimiwa waziri.
Before I allow the Cabinet Secretary to respond to her brief question, let me allow the member for Chebalungu. I think, Honorable Mugambi, I think the Speaker already ruled on this, that it will be one rider question and then back to the owner of the question.
It's okay. Thank you, Speaker. While I appreciate the response from the CS, I would like to make him aware that it's also nice for him and his team to visit these particular villages that I talked about, because I'm the member of parliament and I know what happens. In a particular situation, I was attending a funeral in a village called Kabalwa. It was raining at Sigor town, but upon reaching Kapalwa, it was dry, or it was dust everywhere. And one MC by the name Henry from Kabalwa village really challenged me that whenever there is rainfall, whenever they see signs of rain from these particular villages that I mentioned in this particular question, the person who does irrigation or farming from the neighboring village, these particular companies, he told me in black and white that he normally comes out, shoots the cloud. Those were his local words. He simply told me that he normally comes out, shoots the cloud, and the next moment, there is no rain in these particular villages. That's why, as a member, I took it upon myself to raise the question on, on their behalf. And equally, it is worrying to the effect that this particular data that you gave out, that these particular villages have seen an improvement in rainfall, it is totally wrong. I want to say this particular data is wrong as far as I am concerned, because I know these particular villages. The only time that these villages have received rainfall is when the entire country is receiving heavy rainfall. That is almost 1 year ago. But in normal situations where we see patterns of rain, these particular villages that I've mentioned here don't receive any volume or any rainfall at all. So while I appreciate you, I really want to encourage the ministry that you lead now to go back to these villages, get real information, and come back with proper data that will guide what you will do as a ministry, so that we see these particular villages benefiting from the rainfall, because it's dry. It's really dry when there is no heavy rainfall from the country. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Cabinet Secretary, do you have a rejoinder?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the member for Chapalungu, Chapalungu is a very great constituency led by a great man called Isaac Ruto, who I have a lot of respect for. I want to assure you, after I leave here, please give me your number when you are ready. The Kenya Meteorological Director General and all our researchers will go with you, visit with you all the villages. We work for the people of Kenya, and they will come back to us. So you tell me when you are ready, because I want you to be there. So that. Secondly, to my sister, Zamzam, Honorable Zamzam, I agree with you. I'll talk about this matter in a later question that Honorable TJ Kajuang has raised. How sewer in our counties are dysfunctional, how there's poor management of the sewer manholes, how there's illegal dumping on our water bodies, the seas, the rivers. So I think when I reach that question, Madam Speaker, I think I'll give a more comprehensive statement on the position countrywide. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Honorable members, let's move to our third question, number 106 of 2024, by the Honorable Timothy Wanyonyi, member for Westlands.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I want to congratulate the Minister for his new assignment in the Ministry of Environment, because the Minister of Environment, Madam Speaker, all over the world is now the in thing. Everybody's talking about climate change. Everybody's looking at how we can rescue our planet. And I'm sure Honorable Duale is up to the task. And we know he has passion for anything he does. So, Madam Speaker, allow me to ask my question. Question number 106 of 2024 to the Cabinet Secretary for Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry. Could the Cabinet Secretary explain the reasons behind the depletion of rivers, including the number of permanent rivers that have dried up in the country over the past 4 years, and the plans by the ministry to address and mitigate the situations? Question 2, enumerate the entities and groups that discharge their affluent in the rivers, along with the number of private dams constructed in the last 2 years, and the policy statement outlining the penalties imposed on such entities for negative environmental actions. Number 3, disclose the policy statement allowing the cultivation and re-entry of communities into forested areas, specifying the regions and roadmap for such action and the acreage likely to be affected by the forest, by forest. Question 4, outline the measures put in place to reclaim, safeguard, and sustain all riparian areas and vulnerable ecosystems within the country. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Cabinet Secretary, you may proceed.
Honorable Madam Speaker, before Honorable Zamzam walks out, there's a question that she asked, I have forgotten, on the coconut trees. I want to confirm that I am here with the CEO of Kefri. Kefri and Carlo have developed a hybrid that is shorter and faster growing coconut trees. They are available in Mutwapa, they are available in Gede, in Kilifi, and we are ready. And also, Madam Deputy Speaker, the 15 billion tree growing initiative of President William Ruto in his strategy to restore our ecosystem, 30% of those seedlings are fruit trees. And I really want to ask members of parliament to help that strategy, take charge of the 30%, give to our rural women in our constituencies, our villages, and that will even first restore our ecosystem, our forest cover, and then reduce poverty. Madam Speaker, coming back to the question by Honorable Tim, I have respect for and has represented the people with disability in this House for a number of parliaments, is that it was the issue of river depletion is a critical concern that is on this government's agenda. Under the leadership of His Excellency the President, the government has made a concerted effort to address the causes, recognizing their far-reaching impacts on water resources, on the livelihoods of our people, and the future of our nation. Allow me to elaborate the main causes of this challenge, highlighting very few because the document I have provided to Honorable Wanyonyi and to the Office of the Clerk. One of it is deforestation and degradation of water catchment areas in very critical water catchment areas like the Mao Forest Complex, the Aberdare Ranges, Mount Kenya Forest, and all this has led to a significant reduction in the ability of these forests to regulate our river flow. For instance, rivers such as the Mara, the Sondu, and Njoro, which originate from the Mao Forest, have experienced decreased water levels due to deforestation, which I will again later address in another subsequent question. Two, the other thing that has affected our rivers is prolonged drought and erratic rainfall patterns due to climate change. Climate change is the current currency in the world. It is there, we must face it. You have seen the floods in Nairobi, you have seen the drought, you have seen the landslides. Climate change is a reality. And this has reduced river recharge and flow. Rivers like Athi River, Wasonyiro North River, which support a very critical ecosystem, support our communities, pastoralists, for water, their livestock, and for people, are among those which have been affected. issues as attached list, and that you'll find in Annex 1. NEMA has also issued restoration order to all the non-compliant facilities to ensure that they set up effluent treatment plants and they treat their waste water to meet the national standards under the Environmental Management and Coordination Water Quality Regulations 2006, passed by this House before discharge. The last question, Mr. Speaker, of Honorable Wanyonyi was to disclose the policy statement. Mr. Speaker, it's noteworthy that non-residential cultivation in public forest is governed by the Forest Conservation and the Management Act of 2016, passed by this House. This act establishes the Kenya Forest Service and vested it with a mandate to develop and sustainably manage, including conservation and rational utilization of all forest resources for the country's socio-economic development and our other connected purposes. Honorable Speaker, Section 48, 49, and 50 of that Act provide guidelines for community participation in forest conservation and management. Under these provisions, the Kenya Forest Service issued guidelines for non-residential cultivation and engage local communities. You cannot be in our forest as residential. Through the Community Forest Association, there are regulations where you can go cultivate, you can go graze in consultation with the Kenya Forest Service. But non-residential cultivation or residential cultivation, we will not allow. Our communities do a lot. They work with the Kenya Forest. Subsidiary legislation in forest, Honorable Speaker, most of Section 58, 1 and 2, community forest associations are granted the opportunity to engage in non-residential cultivation. This allows them to cultivate crops while caring for established trees on the same land and the protection of our forests for 3 years. In 2020, Mr. Speaker, operational guidelines for implementing the plantation establishment and livelihood improvement scheme, known as Trees First Guidelines, was put in place, and this was to enhance efficiency and effectiveness of managing our forest plantation. Honorable Speaker, allow me also now to highlight forest cultivation in Kenya faces several challenges, despite the framework and the efforts that the law that this House has put in place. We have got forest degradation due to unsustainable cultivation practice, poor management, and lack of enforcement have led to deforestation in some of our areas. I am here with the Chief Forest Conservator, and we have agreed in principle that our rangers, our foresters, it will not be business as usual. We must, all of us, from the top to our citizens, we must protect our ecosystem, we must protect our biodiversity. Enforcement is a key issue, Mr. Speaker, because KFS is really underfunded, and I'm sure the Committee of Environment will look into that when our physical space improves, Mr. Speaker. Population pressure and conflicts over land use has caused more forest encroachment. And finally, Mr. Speaker, communities involved in our engagement with Kenya Forest Service do not follow sustainable farming practices, which sometimes can lead to soil degradation, loss of biodiversity, and ecosystem disruption. Mr. Speaker, the other long issue that I need to address, which I've given to Honorable Wanyonyi, because he had many questions, was the challenges and how to improve forest conservation and cultivation. The ministry has intensified its efforts to enforce forest conservation laws, mainly through Forest Conservation and Management Act that this House passed in 2016. The ministry has recruited more than 2,664 forest rangers to bolster our enforcement and monitoring activities across all forested areas, increasing funding for the Kenya Forest Service, and we want to thank the President. In all subsequent government, it is President William Ruto's tenure that over 2,600 forest rangers were recruited. The ministry has also reviewed the three first guidelines to make them more adaptive to our emerging challenges such as the land use conflict, climate change, and invasive species management. The ministry is also working closely with the Community Forest Association to promote sustainable farming practice. And lastly, we want to ensure compliance with the law, and the ministry has introduced very strict monitoring mechanism, including regular inspection of forest stations, and these inspections ensure that cultivation's activities are aligned with sustainable forest management and conservation guidelines. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I will give the first bite to the Honorable KJ and then go back to Honorable Wanyoi, the questioner. Proceed, Honorable KJ.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you. And allow me to start by saying that we are happy to have Waziri Duale in the House. It's deja vu when we hear his voice come across through the public address system. We feel like he's seated right there as a leader of majority, one of the better performing leaders of majority that the history of this parliament has known. Now, being a leader of majority, Honorable Duale understands that this parliament never moves in vain. And that's why I rise to ask about the progress of the implementation of a motion that was brought to this House by myself, but was backed by members and passed. And when it was passed by members, then it ceased being my motion. It became a motion of this House. And because this House never legislates in vain, I would like to know, in connection to the reply that he's giving my neighbor, Honorable Tim Wanyonyi, in Nairobi City, we do not have space to plant trees. We do not have shambas. We do not have forests. So the motion was seeking to have the ministry implement tree planting along roadsides and along road reserves. This country constructs in excess of 600 kilometers of road per annum. These roadsides, if they became sites for tree planting, then Nairobi will get its fair share of the bite at the cherry in populating trees in this country. And so the target that the ministry has, Nairobi will be assisting in that target by planting trees along roadsides and road reserves. And this is not uncommon, Mr. Speaker, because previously, the Honorable Beatrice Elachi neighbors me. She will tell you that some roads that we share, when we were growing up, a road like James Gishuru, all the way from Wayakiwe to Dagoretti Corner, used to have a canopy of trees on both sides of the road. And during bloom season, during the jacaranda tree bloom season, it would be the most beautiful boulevard with purple flowers along that tree. Because, Mr. Speaker, when a road gets a tree canopy, it stops being a road, it becomes a boulevard.
KJ, it's a question time.
The question is...
The chair has given you some leeway so that you can build on your question, but please ask the question.
Yes, sir. Yes. Mr. Speaker, I do oblige, and the question is, what is the state of implementation on the motion that was passed by this House on the tree planting along roadsides and along road reserves in this republic? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Fair enough. Tim Wanyonyi, you can ask a question, and then the minister the cabinet secretary will answer them together. Proceed, the Honorable Wanyonyi. Can you give him the mic, please?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I want to appreciate the answer that the minister has given, very elaborate and I know he means the things he has said, especially, Mr. Speaker, about the Nairobi River that is so polluted, and looking forward, Honorable Tuale, that we, as leadership of Nairobi, we are ready to join you, to work with you, to reclaim these rivers. Nairobi River never dries up. It runs throughout the year. And if it is saved, Mr. Speaker, it will even be giving people who live along that river fresh water and many other things to use it. So we look forward to Honorable Tuale for that implementation. And secondly, my other comment, there is a riparian area just outside Westgate Mall, which land that Honorable Ngilu, when she was the Minister for Lands, she helped rescue that land from land grabbers. And it's a riparian area, and we wanted to preserve that area to remain as it was. It was a very beautiful environment, vegetation, and all like that. But now, there are people who have come and encroached that land and have occupied it. So I would like to ask whether the Honorable Minister will be in a position to come and help reclaim that land along with his colleague, the Minister of Lands, so that it remains a riparian area and will preserve our ecosystem within that area. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Honorable KJ asked a very good question. I will look for the motion, and I'm sure the Committee on Implementation need to invite me and the rest who are concerned. But I want to assure him that there are many places to plant. We have started with City Park. City Park now is under KFS. The title belongs to the Ministry of National Treasury. It belongs to us. So City Park, because Karura now is over congested. In one weekend, there are over between 5,000 to 10,000 people. So we want to plant, fence, and make City Park forests be like Karura. But yes, but on the roadside, under the key restoration program of the president of the 15 billion, the Ministry of Roads is under obligations. There are many things in that strategy that the contractors were given to build roads. They are under obligation to plant trees and grow trees, not even planting, grow trees. The way you see in Europe, if you drive from here to Thika, from here to Nairobi, to Nakuru, to Kisumu, you must drive in the middle of a row of a forest, that road. That is part of what the Ministry of Roads is going to do in the larger restoration, 15 billion. Secondly, we are having an engagement with Kenya Power and Lighting Company and even the road agency. There is no way they can come to your residence, to your estate, and in making sure the electricity lines are in order, they just cut trees. It's not allowed. The law even allows. The problem in this country is people don't want to follow the law. There's a lot of impunity. Even when you want to construct your residential home on half an acre, the law allows that you must leave certain percentage for growing trees and grass and all that. But because of greed, people want to build apartments next to each other. And this must come to an end. Honorable team, I am happy today that as a ranking member of the Nairobi Members of Parliament, you and KJ, you have stood firm and you have gone on record that you stood with us. The Nairobi River Commission was not under my ministry, but now it's coming to my ministry. Yet you stood with us, the multi-agency team, you stood with the president and all of us, and Beatrice Elachi is also here. will help us clean Nairobi River. More, I'll talk about it, Mr. Speaker, when we reach the question of Honorable T.J. Kajwang on Nairobi River.
Next question, honorable members, let's go to the next question by the Honorable T.J. Kajwang. No, it's, sorry, it's the Honorable Member of Parliament for Nakuru, Madam Lisa Chelule. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity. Waziri, welcome, and we congratulate you for your new position of CS for Environment. My question, Mr. Speaker, sir, is 107 of 2024, and it is as follows. Could the Cabinet Secretary elaborate on the initiative undertaken by the ministry to preserve wetlands and water catchment areas within the country, and further state the effectiveness of such institution? My number 2 question, Mr. Speaker, sir, could the Cabinet Secretary explain the measures of the ministry, the ministry has put in place to safeguard indigenous trees planted in Kenya forests, considering the significant threat posed by charcoal burning activities? My question number 3, Mr. Speaker, sir, could the Cabinet Secretary provide the status of the community forest associations nationwide, and further state the steps taken by the ministry to ensure those associations are adequately equipped and trained to actively engage in seed propagation, particularly in light of the government's plan to plant 15 billion trees within the next decade? Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Member for Nakuru County, my sister, seeks to know the initiative that the ministry has undertaken to preserve our heritage, our wetlands, and catchment areas. Mr. Speaker, at the policy level, the ministry has put in place National Wetland Conservation and Management Policy 2009 to ensure how we use and the sustainable management of our wetlands in the country, and to ensure sustained ecological and socio-economic functions for the wetlands for both the present and for future generations. Mr. Speaker, the ministry is now implementing that policy jointly with other stakeholders in order to protect and safeguard wetlands. 2, Mr. Speaker, the ministry has developed and is enforcing the Wetlands Regulations 2009, which was passed under the Environmental Management and Coordination Act, Cap 387 laws of Kenya. These regulations, Mr. Speaker, provides a framework that will ensure all wetland resources in our country are utilized in a very sustainable manner, compatible with the continued presence of wetlands and their ecological goods and services. Mr. Speaker, the ministry has also designated 6 wetlands in the country as far as the Ramsar sites. Ramsar is a convention that Kenya has signed internationally in 1992. These sites include Lake Nakuru in Nakuru County, Lake Elimantaita in Nakuru County, Lake Bogoria in Baringo County, Lake Baringo in Baringo County, Lake Naivasha in Nakuru County, and Tana Delta in Tana River County. Thirdly, to promote wise use and conservation of our wetlands and all the associated resources, my ministry is implementing the management plans for several wetlands in our country. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to read, it's a long list. I have provided to the member from Gambele Swamp Integrated in Meru, Lake Kenyatta Management Plan in Lamu, Tana Delta Management Plan in Tana River, Sabaki Estuary Management Plan in Kilifi, Lake Jibe in Taveta, Munungu Swamp in Embu, Saiwa Swamp in Trans Nzoia, Kibiroing Wetland Management Plan in Nandi, which are all ongoing, and Lake Bogoria Management Plan, which is under review. Honorable Speaker, the ministry is also restoring all our degraded wetlands by mobilizing various stakeholders, including the national government agencies, county governments, the private sector, NGOs, and the general public and our local communities to restore all degraded areas through planting of trees, and it's part of the wider 15 billion trees growing initiative started by President William Ruto. And it's very, very important, Mr. Speaker, to note that the conservation and protection of our wetland is our sustainability strategy towards attaining 15 billion tree growing goal. Last but not least, Mr. Speaker, we're also implementing a very transformative initiative dubbed Adapt a Wetland, which is spearheaded by NEMA. This initiative seeks to catalyze the participation of different stakeholders. But let me warn, Mr. Speaker, a number of our wetlands, people have title deeds. When we cancel them, I need the support of this House. People will bring petitions, people will bring motions, they might even bring an impeachment to discuss me. I want this House to protect, because I'll be protecting the wetlands. So cartels will use, I don't want cartels to use the floor of this House. I have seen it. When I talk about, I have lived here, I think a quarter of my life. So I know what goes on. Madam Speaker, the second question was explain the measures the minister has put in place on this matter. And Honorable Speaker, Honorable Lise seeks to know the measures. Allow me to respond to this by first observing that the Ministry of Environment, Climate Change, and Forestry is unwavering in its commitment to protecting Kenya's indigenous trees through regulatory enforcement. I have one of our top researchers, the CEO of KEFRI here with me, the scientific research we must protect, and community must be engaged, all of which are facilitated by Kenya Forest Service and Kenya Forest Research Institute, KEFRI, which is both in Muguga and in many of our counties. Honorable Speaker, Kenya Forest Service recently employed, as I say, 2,000 plus forest rangers to various regions and posted to various regions and forest stations to strengthen and protect and conserve efforts that our Member of Parliament from Nakuru County has raised. In the spirit of collaboration, the ministry has also deployed forest advisory staff to counties to advise our counties, give them advisory service, work with our county governments on forest conservation, on development, and on management issues. 3, to regulate tree harvesting on private lands, our ministry has implemented mandatory inspection and issuance of certificates of origin and movements of all forest permits for movements of all forest-related products. Finally, the ministry actively supports community forest association, formal groups of communities adjacent to our forest, which collaborates with KFS in sustainable management of our forest. The third, and I think the final question, Mr. Speaker, is, third question that the member has asked is the status of community forest association. Let me start by explaining the anchorage of community forest association in the Kenyan laws. CFA, as they are called, are incorporated under Section 9 of the Societies Act, Cap 108, but they are domiciled in the forestry sector through Section 48, subsection 1 of the Forest Conservation and Management Act of 2016, passed by this august House. Section 49(1) of the Forest Community Management Association outlines the obligation of our community forest association, their role, and they are given and granted permission to participate in how they help KFS in the management and in the conservation of our forest. Mr. Speaker, currently we have 233 community forest associations. A good example is a group that runs Karura Forest in collaboration with KFS. And they are spread across the country. There are 175 of them which are active. 17 of them are inactive. 41 of them are moderately active, with a total of 185,535 membership. All these community forest associations, Mr. Speaker, are duly registered with the Registrar of Societies. So they have a legal backing. They help us to protect, conserve with our communities. And they live next to our forest in protecting our national heritage. Community forest associations, Mr. Speaker, engage in forest management activities through what we call participatory forest management plans. Mr. Speaker, our ministry has taken the following steps to ensure community forest associations are equipped and trained to support the 15 billion growing trees strategy of the Kenya Kwanza government. The ministry through KFS supports this group by doing what? In developing, in training them, in helping them with good governance, and giving them good guidance on what to do, on how to sustainably manage the use of our forest resources and how our forest restoration activities can take place. Speaker, the ministry provides through KFS and KFRI, it offers them training in forest governance. It offers them training in monitoring and compliance with the forest regulations, while KFRI provides specialized training in seed propagation, nursery management, agroforestry production. Mr. Speaker, before I became a minister, I didn't know what is KFRI and where they are. I really want to ask that one day, members, when you're free, you visit KFRI in Miguga. It's a very cold place. You'll find 10, 20 top researchers. They will tell you what you want. They will tell you the type of tree. They spend hours and years, Mr. Speaker. Very, very great institution. Mr. Speaker, the community forest associations are playing an increasingly significant role in helping us in creating awareness in tree growing campaigns. In this 15 billion, you'll find them on site. Seedling production, they have been given that role. They help us in producing those seeds. They help us in running nurseries, in planting and growing of trees in gazetted and outside gazetted forest. They protect planted trees from destruction and damage. So they are very, very important. And that's why this August House gave them a role when they were doing the Forest Conservation and Management Act of 2016. Mr. Speaker, I think I have answered all that to the member for Nakuru County, the Honorable Liza Chelule.
The Honorable Wilberforce Oundo.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It's good to see my friend in the House today. He was the majority leader, and he left me seated here, and you'll always find me here, regardless what Sir George thinks. I'll always sit here. Honorable Speaker, I like his passion for the new assignment. I did not know he'll transit from a Afande to a forestman that seamlessly. Honorable Speaker, I want, probably it might not have an answer now, but I want you to engage your team to look at a series of hills in Funyula constituency, starting from Odiado Hills all the way to Busia Hill. For many years, during the times of Professor Julio Jambo when she was the MP, the place was populated by trees, indigenous trees. Over time, as has clearly said, bad farming practices, deforestation, and tree cutting for construction sites, charcoal burning, has decimated those trees, and generally those hills are now bare. Is there a program within the ministry that private owners of land can collaborate with the ministry to ensure afforestation with the indigenous trees so that we preserve the environment and return the hills to the status they were in the 1970s and early 1980s? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Member of Women Rep for Wajir County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First, I want to tell the Waziri that you are in the right ministry. Listening to you gives me all the confidence that you can make a difference in this ministry. And I feel like it's the right time to make the Northeastern green, Mr. Waziri. Following up on the issue of the 15 billion trees that we are meant to plant between now and 2032, Mr. Minister, we have had a day for international tree planting, and it's somewhere in November, if I'm not wrong. Last year, we all went to the counties, and all the ministers planted all sorts of trees. But coming to where we come from, you and I, all those trees are not doing well. Are we having a scenario whereby we are just planting trees and we leave it, or we can plant trees for sustainability? I want you, when you go back, to look at the trees that were planted. I know you were not there. Find out how they are doing. I know your team can do that. They can do that work and see how they are faring. 2, I've been to the KFS many times. I was just hoping if we can have a land, a forestation land for Wajir, Mr. Minister. We have the land, but we don't have trees, we don't have water. But I believe if we were given water and trees, we can give you land that you can do very well, that people can come for benchmarking. And I'll repeat this, Mr. Minister, that by the time you leave this docket, I want you to paint Northeastern green. It's viable, it's possible, and we can make it, all of us. Thank you.
CS, I think you can take a few more and then answer them together. Yes. You can take 2 more. Yes. And then you answer them at one go. Oluoch, are you still on or you have changed your mind? Okay, the MP for Seme then, if Oluoch is not interested.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I also take this opportunity to actually congratulate our colleague, having shifted from here, and how he's really picked very well in the new docket. But my question is to do with the preservation of indigenous trees. Some of these trees have actually very high commercial value, and their protection is important. Some have medicinal value, some have special oil values. Like, my question is specifically on sandalwood. I don't know whether it is indigenous tree or it's actually a tree that was brought in. But this tree apparently is very popular. It has some special oil, and there's always a lot of trafficking. People have been arrested, lorries have been arrested, carrying sandalwood. Is it not possible, if this wood is so popular and has such a high commercial value, to actually grow it in a commercial scale? Not just protect what is there, but grow it in a commercial scale and actually export it, and it will give us foreign exchange. Thank you.
Bonnie. Waziri, because they're all pretty much similar, I think you can take a few together. Yes, you have the mic.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Duale, my friend. Since you left, I'm still suffering. Yeah, my question is similar to the question by Honorable Member from Wajir. Last year we had a tree planting day, and it succeeded in some areas. Chair, can you protect me from these honorable members?
The Honorable Rosa Buyu.
So last year, it succeeded in some areas where others did not succeed. In Ukambani, I think it partially succeeded because of two reasons. One, our long rains start in October, ends in December. That's our long rains. But the trees, we brought the trees in November, so we had only like 1 month for the trees to get the necessary water. Secondly, these trees, they were not really for Ukambani, and therefore they could not really withstand the harsh climate in that area. So my question is there plans to have the tree planting day this year? And what are plans, what plans are there for government to supply trees which are really area specific? Thank you very much.
I think I will ask the questioner, Madam Chelule, to ask the last question on this. There are two other questions which those of you who feel they can contribute can also, or rather ask questions, will get an opportunity to proceed. Okay. Honorable Liza.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for once again giving me this time to react to the answers given by the Cabinet Secretary. Mr. Waziri, we are not only talking about the government forest and other government institutions. I'm very passionate in planting trees. And I want to request you, Waziri, that we need to engage people at home to do serious planting of indigenous trees and other trees, exotic trees. And I'm saying this, Mr. Speaker, sir, because if we don't engage the people of this country even to plant in their private lands, we may not achieve what we want to achieve. Waziri, I hope you are aware that most rivers are disappearing because of degradation. And this one is happening because farmers around small rivers are doing plowing to the riverbanks. And this is actually encouraging the soil erosion to fill up the rivers. And this is what is happening at the community level. Banasias, you've only spoken about these big institutions, the government institutions. We want to speak about those rivers in our local areas. There are so many rivers that are drying up because of the quarry activities along those rivers. And as the CS, and I know you are not lazy, I would really request you that one day, you just move around and see what is happening in most of places in Kenya. So many activities, those bad activities is happening along the rivers. And rivers have actually disappeared. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wanted to request the CS. He has spoken actually about the KEFRI, and let us devolve KEFRI. I'm not saying we take all the offices from KEFRI or everything, but we need the seeds. They have good seeds, indigenous seeds and exotic seeds that Kenyans can plant. If only today tree seedlings is made free to Kenyans, you will see wonders. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So otherwise, I'm satisfied to some extent, but I know you will do it, Waziri. Thank you.
CS, you can answer those raft of questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me start with my very good friend, Honorable Member for Funyula. I also miss you. I mean, he was my colleague in Public Accounts Committee. I hope you are still there. Yes, at least you are talking about hills. We have had many about mountains. So today, today is about hills. And where myself and the speaker come from, there are also small hills, the ant-hills, not as big as the ones of Busia. So I will really want to ask you that the private, our program for restoration, the 15 billion, also covers private land. And I want to ask you if those hills are available. Myself, yourself, the people of your area, with the KFS and KEFRI, we will have a day where we're going to plant 10, 20,000 trees. Our policy is not tree planting, it's tree growing. There's a difference between planting and growing. So 15 billion tree growing. And this is citizen driven. You'll find ministers in all our counties. We have allocated. All our ministers will go. So agroforestry is now under this ministry. It's very, very key. Farm, forestry, the 15 billion strategy, all these will go in hand. To Honorable Fatuma, I first want to assure you that KEFRI is going to Wajir. They are in Garissa, and they are going to open the first seedling center in Wajir. And please work with our governor and our county government. 60% of the 15 billion tree growing strategy are going to happen in the dryland part of our country. That is in the Assam. And coming to the question of Honorable Nyekal, I have missed you, and I have missed your many amendments. You know, when it was a committee of the whole House, I look at the order paper, I missed your many amendments. But still I read the order paper. I agree with you, and if you go to KEFRI, they will show you how some of the species in our country are more valuable commercially. The perfumes you buy in Dubai, duty-free, the products are found, the raw material is found in our forest, in our country. So if you just go to if you go to Dr. Jane, our acting CEO of KEFRI, she will tell you which trees are good for which area of our country. So we don't even plant trees anywhere. Every area our scientists have identified. And I have a very long list, particularly for colleagues in the Asal. There are many trees that grow in our areas, but we don't know the value. But I have asked the Speaker to arrange for me a Kamkunji, maybe later in the month, so that we talk to our members on this 15 billion presidential tree growing area, so that under the environment aspect of your NGCDF, we can even pick, even if you pick a 30% which is fruit tree, and you take it to our rural constituencies, and you give to our rural women, that will change. Not only it will help us in the reforestation of our country, but it will help us reduce poverty within our communities. So please, I really want us to work on that. I think Honorable Boni, the Speaker, I'm not seeing him here.
He's there. Next.
Oh, he's there. Oh, he has come. Yes, he's a good friend of mine. I have also missed him. But Speaker, if you allow me, the problem is I cannot come to the bar. But I will come, and once I'm around here, you allow me to come and have tea at the lobby, like General Kaiseri, the late General Kaiseri used to do. And I agree with you. in our areas, Kitui, Garissa, the dryland areas, Dr. Jane and KFS have the solution of which trees that don't require a lot of water, that will grow and even will help the community in terms of commercial activity. And the fruit trees we can give to our rural women in your constituency. But we'll have a meeting. I think, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Chelule gave very fair comments. We will take her comments. And on the quarries, we will deal with it. The man in charge of quarries, just text me which quarry is affecting our rivers. The NEMA person in Nakuru will either do his job or he'll work for the quarry owner. There's no choice between. So you either work for government or you work for the people who are doing business in various sectors. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The next question, I think you will get a bite in the next questions because all these questions are pretty much similar. The Honorable TJ, I notice you have just walked into the House and you have a question. Could you ask your question? Give him the order paper, please.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I can confirm to you that Ruaraka is in the House. Mr. Speaker, my question is number 129/2024. The question is directed to the Cabinet Secretary, Environment, Climate Change and Forestry. I want to ask questions about Nairobi River pollution and noise pollution. Number one.
Ask the question verbatim.
State the root cause or root causes of the Nairobi River pollution and why the river continues to be contaminated despite the many interventions made over the years by various institutions. Outline the number of facilities along the Nairobi River that are discharging effluent into the river and the steps the ministry has taken to address the situation. What measures, Mr. Speaker, are there to address the discharge of effluent into rivers and water sources in the country? And the last one on this, clarify whether illegal dumping or dump sites, including the infamous Dandora dump site located along the Nairobi River, are contributing to the Nairobi River pollution, and what measures are in place to remove illegal dump sites and dumping along rivers, including management of waste in urban areas. Mr. Speaker, state the steps taken by the ministry to address the increasing cases of noise pollution in the country, especially in residential areas within urban centers. Mr. Speaker, I ask.
Cabinet Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, let me start, and I really want to thank Honorable TJ Kajwang. This is a current question because Nairobi rivers is a currency, an important and a priority for this government and for the president. Mr. Speaker, as you may be aware, the president recently launched a groundbreaking and ambitious climate resilience service program called Climate Works, aimed at ecological restoration of our urban rivers, mainly and starting with the Nairobi rivers, while we still maintain public infrastructure, housing, through labor-intensive and sustainable public works. So, the Speaker, I will have another day to talk about this climate works. It contains a lot. It's about Nairobi River, regeneration, restoration, the pavements, the riparian area, how the labor intensive in terms of the settlements, making sure some roads are done, lightning is done. So it's a huge program of the government under the able leadership of the president. So the initial phase of this climate works started yesterday, Mr. Speaker, here in Nairobi County, along the Nairobi River. In its first phase, 20,000 young people of Nairobi from 42 villages have been onboarded. The first 10,000 cohort started work yesterday. Speaker, building on this foundation, we will extend the program to 4 other major cities, Kisumu, Mombasa, Eldoret, and Nakuru in the next few months. And another additional 40,000 youth will be engaged, with the 10,000 of them allocated in other areas of Nairobi starting early November. In December, Mr. Speaker, because of equity, this climate works will be rolled out across all the remaining 47 counties, embodying close to about 139,909 young people to ensure full national participation and impact. Honorable Speaker, my ministry is implementing other initiatives to deal with the pollution issues in our main urban rivers. The National Environmental Management Authority initiated such a program called Urban Rivers Regeneration Program 2019 to 2024 for restoration and sustainable management of rivers within urban areas such as Nairobi, Kisumu, Eldoret, Nakuru, which face very serious and critical environmental challenges due to pollution, encroachment, and misuse. The following, Mr. Speaker, have been identified as the root causes of pollution in Nairobi. And many people, many leaders, many ministers shied away, but I will not shy away. I will not. And I want Honorable TJ to listen to me. The informal settlements, the people you represent, their percentage in terms of polluting. The story in town is the informal settlements are polluting Nairobi River. That's a fallacy. It's less than 1%. They even don't have garbage. They have nothing to throw. What they eat is very little. The garbage comes from the middle class. The biggest polluters of Nairobi River, and they must listen to me, and NEMA has mapped out 145 industries, factories, slaughterhouses, apartments, who discharge their affluent to Nairobi River. We have, and I have directed, the DG NEMA is sitting here. The laws that this House has passed, he must enforce it. He has no choice. Mamo must enforce. He either enforce or he leaves the job. You either shape in or shape out. So he has written restoration orders last week. So industries are the ones who are polluting Nairobi River. Number two, the greatest polluters, and the president has spoken to them, is Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company. It is Athi Water and Sewerage Company. The president has spoken to the two CEOs. Their manholes discharge raw sewage into Nairobi River. In fact, we don't have a river, we have a sewage. The third and largest group that destroy Nairobi River are the dam sites. along the 47-kilometer from Kikuyu constituency to Thwake Dam in Makueni, there are thousands of dam sites. On Sunday, trucks were in Mukuru kwa Jenga, trucks carrying garbage, discharging on the river. And I have told the governor of Nairobi, he must remove dam sites along Nairobi River. And we are going to call to order the companies that he has contracted who carry garbage and the private ones that come to our homes, even including members of parliament. We will sit with them. Mr. Speaker, the biggest problem in our country in terms of environmental challenge is we devolved it. Waste management is devolved. No, pollution is devolved. Zoning is devolved. No county today in our country can tell you we have this dam site. You have seen trucks, Mr. Speaker, as you drive. Behind them, the garbage is falling. We will introduce very strict measures. So dam sites is another pollution. Solid waste goes into the river, Mr. Speaker. Informal settlement, very little. If you allow me, Mr. Speaker, just to make a joke, the guy who is in the informal settlement, he cleans his plate, even doesn't need to wash it. The food he has is very little. So what is he going to throw away? The people who throw garbage, who have huge garbage, is the middle class and the industries. And then they blame informal settlements. Mr. Speaker, the other group is those who build or encroached on the riparian part of. When I saw the question from Honorable Kajuang, I was very happy, because it will give me an opportunity to address from the floor of this house. These 100, I have written to capture, and I have written to Kenya Association of Manufacturers. With all these big companies, Mr. Speaker, big companies are dumping their waste, their effluent. The law allows them, MCA law allows them that they must provide how their effluent is discharged. Let me accept it. Somebody somewhere failed. Because of corruption, because of greed, nobody wanted to protect the environment. NEMA had the teeth. This DG has transferred a number of people. But they got to big people and they were being returned. All the NEMA officials in the city are transferred, all of them, including the county director, who had very powerful connections. Michuki, I read his notes. The late Michuki, he had a good vision. Mzee Moi, when he started umomonyoko wa udongo, people used to laugh at him. If we could have picked from where he left, today Kenya, our forest cover, which is 10.3%, could have been 35%. The Speaker, Ethiopia, our neighbor, has done 36 billion tree growing in 10 years. So far, Mr. Speaker, we have done 451 million. Every minister has a county. And I am ready to work with every member here to give you the seedlings, to work with KEFRI and KFS. Mr. Speaker, where you come from, you have seen what UHNCR. UHNCR, Mr. Speaker, and I want you to support me, is a global UN entity to take care of the interests of refugees. They must provide an alternative energy source. They have cut all the trees over the years. I have told the UHNCR country director, it will not be business as usual. I will go with you to the dam. And I told them I have the backing of all the members of parliament from that area. They're even killing elephants. They're killing giraffes and sell them. Together, all of us must protect. So, Honorable TJ, I have told you who is polluting, and we will deal with them. What are we doing about it? We are removing all dam sites and structures along the riparian land. Honorable TJ, help us on this Nairobi River regeneration. We lost 42 people during the floods. We are not ready to lose any other life. We are not ready. The Madare River, the Ngong River, Honorable Member for Madare, lost a lot of people. We must bite the bullet. The president is ready. The government is ready. We are committed. Kenya is a capital of UNEP. We have a green constitution. We must have Nairobi River like the Thames River. At one time, the Thames River was a sludge. Today, the Thames River is a great transport hub in London. In addition to this intervention, Nairobi River Commission was established by His Excellency. The story of it, I think the Honorable Member has my answer. He asked a second question to outline the number of facilities along the Nairobi River that discharge affluent. I think I've answered. NEMA has conducted inspection to identify the illegal discharging along the riparian. Out of the 145 facilities, which we have mapped, 101 facilities have been listed by NEMA as having compliance issues because they don't have the required discharge according to the law. I have attached the list. I have nothing to hide. Yes. Even the banks, I have searched with the banks, they have a sustainability obligation, KCB, equity. If they are giving credit to a company, to a factory that is destroying the environment, even that sustainability of that company will be in question. So about 101. We have slaughterhouses who are discharging raw affluent to Nairobi River. NEMA will undertake compliance evaluation through inspection. Question 3, Mr. Speaker, was Honorable TJ has asked our indulgence to state the measures that we have put in place. And I think I've already put it. But let me come to what are we doing about pollution control and waste water management. The Speaker, religious groups and those who run clubs, some of them are running clubs under a tent, like in Kitengela. The music that they play can even disturb a family 5 kilometers. Even our citizens, when they are celebrating a graduation or a birthday, they must comply with the law. They must. You can't bring all your friends because your son is graduating and then you play music the whole night. Some people have sick people. Some have young children. Some people are tired, they want to sleep early. So, Speaker, I am a victim. This weekend in my own estate. But because I didn't want to be accused of using my powers, I wrote a small note to the chairman of our estate and I told him, this is against the law. Please, by 10 o'clock, reduce noise pollution. NEMA partnered. NEMA has the powers. They have a police, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there's something this House has given us under regulation. It's called Extended Producer Responsibility Enforcement. That if, for example, a bottle of Coca-Cola or a packet of Brookside is found along Nairobi River, that company, under extended producer responsibility, they must come and clean that river. NEMA must issue that restoration order. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, during the finance bill, one of the biggest multinational companies was against the eco levy. Why was that company against the eco levy? Because their franchise in Kenya, when their packets or their bottles are found along Nairobi River and NEMA uses the extended producer responsibility, that responsibility goes to the owner of the brand, who is a multinational. And they came, I was watching, they come before the finance committee. They don't want to take responsibility. So, Mr. Speaker, when the restoration support bill come next month or next year, that will be used to protect the environment, our ecosystem, I really want to ask colleagues here to support that bill and to make it even more punitive. Honorable Speaker, I think on noise pollution, it's becoming a very, very serious issue. So restoration order, sustainable waste management, the law is there of 2022. This House has enacted it. It aims to promote a circular economy in waste management, such as segregation of waste at source. In your homes, in the next few months, I will gazette the coded, where in your homes you must have a waste bin for the waste, for the wet waste, for the organic, and for the dry. The vehicles that will carry must carry separately. And when they take it to Dandora dam site, there must be different areas for different waste. For the dry one, the young people can use it for recycling. For the organic, can be used even for manure. Our public transport system must have waste bins, Mr. Speaker. That when, if you eat a banana, you don't throw it from the window. So public transport owners must provide. And so, Mr. Speaker, all these, we will enforce the noise pollution, we will enforce those who are dumping effluent to Nairobi River. When we deal with them, please don't call me. Because you will call me, it is my friend, it is somebody who supported me. Let us, all of us together, and I really want to indulge this House. I really want to indulge the leadership of Kenya is sitting here. Please, let us be remembered for conserving our environment. Let us be remembered for the fourth preamble of our Constitution that says we must protect, preserve the environment for the current generation and the future generations. The framers of the Honorable Speaker was part of the constitution making. The framers of our Constitution, I had a chat with the judges of the Environment and Land Courts. They totally agree with me. They said, up to the Chief Justice, let us, all of us, citizens, make sure, but Nairobi members of Parliament, majority are sitting here, my final shot. Please, help me and the President and the multi-agency team. There was a question why, I think, Honorable, why KDF? I think that's the questions that, that's the question that you want to deal with me when I appear before the Environment Committee. And I was ready tomorrow, but I am told tomorrow members have other important business. Mine is not important anymore. So they have given me a date of 15th. And as a ranking member, Mr. Speaker, this one is very important, so you better go do it. I have no vote, but it is important. So tomorrow, Honorable TJ, I got a letter from the committee. We meet on the 15th. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, I'm sure that the House is seriously excited that we have a new sheriff on environmental matters in town. And I wish I was not on the chair and I was on the other side when you were talking about the UNHCR and what needs to be done. But in any case, I know me and you come from the same county, so we'll talk about it. It's a serious work, and you're cut for the job, and you're doing a fantastic job. Now, the honorable members, Martin Owino, followed by Anthony Oluoch. Order. No, you will get your shot. You will get your shot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
TJ, wait. You will take the final shot, and the minister will. That's the tradition right now, which is set in here. You ask, and then you also give the last question, so that the minister can. Yeah, Honorable Owino.
Thank you so much,
followed
Mr.
by
Speaker.
the Honorable Anthony Oluoch. Then I'll go to the ladies.
CS Duale, congratulations. We know people miss you, but some people miss you more, especially for us who you mentored in first term. I just want to ask for the small rural urban areas, like in Ndewa, who are struggling right now with how to deal with this pollution and also mismanagement of waste. So my question is, right now we are reactive because of missteps when things were being done. Is there any, the CS, is there any plan for prevention of these messes? For example, working together with the Ministry of Planning for proper town planning, for these upcoming urban areas like Ndewa. And are you also going to reach out to our youth? Because we also need this engagement of youth which you have created. So don't just stop at the county level, but are you also going to reach and work with the constituencies so that they can help in managing the environment? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, the Honorable Oluoch. Let it be a question. I don't make it very long.
Okay, thank you very much. And CS, allow me to also thank you and for the very seamless transition. It appears as if you are actually fit for the environment as opposed to the previous one. I come from a neighboring constituency from my friend Honorable TJ Kajwang. Let me begin by the pollution or the polluters that you have indicated, and you very correctly said that the informal settlements hardly do the majority of the pollution. In one of my constituency wards called Mlango Kubwa around Mau Mau Road, if you go there, a new dumping site has now started for the last 1 year. And if you look at some of what is being dumped, the menu does not look like some of the constituents who voted for me. You find macaroni remains, pishori papers. I mean, you find a lot of polythene paper of things that ordinarily I know for a fact that are not consumed on a daily basis by my constituents. But that is besides. The main point that I wanted to make to the CS is in relations to the Madare River, the demolitions that took place, and you correctly said that majority of the people affected came from my constituency and Ruaraka constituency. The people in my constituency are still smarting from the demolitions and the removals that took place in that particular place. I am very happy, and I'm sure TJ is, that Nairobi River Commission is coming to your ministry. That you have indicated you will address on the 15th, and I would be happy to appear alongside TJ. The main question that I wanted to ask you is in relation to slaughterhouses, and you indicated that slaughterhouses are one of the main causes of pollution. In Madare, I have the Kiamaikol community, where the mainstay of business for the Somali community is slaughter. Your predecessor intervened when NEMA people targeted the Somali community in my constituency for harassment when they consistently were in compliance with the standards that were being made. to date, they still continue to be harassed. They still continue to be threatened with the closure of their slaughterhouses. And I want to invite you, CS, that you take the opportunity to come to my constituency, in particular to Kiamichael Ward, because then you will have a live interaction of, do the slaughterhouses, all of them, contribute into pollution of the rivers, or is there an element of corruption and high-handedness from the NEMA people because of business competition? You will also be able to see yourself the Nairobi River that passes there and get the participation of the local people on how best we can be able to preserve two things: the businesses that must continue of the Kiamichael people and the Nairobi River that we must protect. Thank you. CS.
The Honorable Beatrice Elachi, followed by the Honorable Omanyo, and I'll come to all of you. The Minister, the CS will take a few questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also want to really thank the CS, who is one of the majority leaders that we've had in this country, and we will remember for many years his consistency when he means something, and I believe this is what he means in the Ministry of Environment. Mr. Speaker, mine is to just say two things. I appreciate, as he says, that we are now going to deal with Nairobi Water and also with Athi. And for me, the issue here is now the drainages and the sewers within the informal settlements, where you find they're the ones after, let's say, for example, when it rains, definitely they will drain to Nairobi River. How can we deal with that? And how can we bring in new sewer lines where there are no sewer lines? If that can really help us. But more importantly also, how can we have a program in schools where children in informal settlements can learn also how to dispose garbage, because they'll be able to assist their parents in terms of separation of garbage and all that. And lastly, is there a way we can have a program with the Turkish government, I think, so that we can have olive oil trees, which we know you can plant anywhere, whether it's in a dry land, it will grow, so that we have those seedlings and help now for those who are in areas where they are semi-arid or really arid to plant those trees, and it will help us even with oil. Thank you.
Honorable Omanyo, you can ask your question also.
Oh, I thought I was next, Mr. Speaker.
Oh.
Me.
But you're Omanyo, I thought.
Yes.
Yeah, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Buena CS, thank you so much for your extensively well-elaborated answers. But in Busia, we have, it's like two things happen at a go. Whenever it rains, it is too much that the overflow happens and the riverbanks burst, especially in Budalangi, and most of the habitats have to run away for safety all the time whenever it is raining. So while we are thinking of planting trees, other areas that are dry to attract rains, we have too much sometimes. And my question is, what is your plan to raise either something that can obstruct whenever the overflow happens in Budalangi, because this should stop. It has been there since I was not born. Then I'm now this age, the same story of floods affecting our people. And then now when you go to Teso North, there is a hard pan. I tried to dig boreholes. I couldn't go beyond. And that the areas, the few areas that have boreholes, they are seasonal. So there is a problem in that area in Teso North. I'm asking, is there a way we can have piped water to go across the sub-county, or a dam that can feed all the area, because that area, women are raped at night and girls going across the other county in Bungoma to queue For 6 to 8 hours, I meet men whenever I'm doing my own crisscrossing, and they make it as a joke and say, at night you wake up, you are touching left and right, your wife is not there. She has gone to look for this important basic need, water. So we can save a lot. When you come to Budalangi, food insecurity is now high. Poverty levels have gone too high as well. And no one anywhere in the world is likes to be put or called as poor. There are situations that happens and they find themselves like that. Now that you have been sounding so knowledgeable, I am begging as the women representative there that we put it pragmatically so that it doesn't just look very well done theoretically.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
The Honorable Murugara, and then Cherorot, and then the Honorable Kajuang, and the rest of you will take a serious bite on the next question.
Thank you.
There's another question also which is very similar to this, and you can ask anything on environment because the minister is there for the Minister for Environment. So
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And he will take note of all these things and he'll answer them. Whatever he can't answer them, he'll answer them next time.
Thank you.
Proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, allow me also to voice my delight this afternoon to have our former Leader of Majority being with us here. Even when he became a ranking member, I remember we used to do many, many long hours in the House, and as he can witness, we are still doing it with vigor. So we are carrying on, we are holding fort in respect of the House. Mr. Speaker, allow me to ask him regarding the pollution that Honorable T.J. Kajuang has actually asked about. We know very well Nairobi River is murky. In fact, as we live within the precincts of Nairobi, you cannot, unless where it is absolutely necessary, you cannot drink that water. But as the river goes down, it gets into Machakos and then into Makwedi. And residents there actually use that water when it is not treated. It's a very big health hazard. What measures is the government putting in place to ensure that even as we clean the river here in Nairobi, the water is also treated so that the health and safety measures that would apply in Machakos and Makueni are applicable and those people are safe? Similarly, but in the contrast, the Tana River has very clean water. As it traverses Tharaka, we actually use that water without any treatment, and hardly, seldomly, can it be said that it's a health hazard. And I know you do it in Garissa, because I come to Garissa quite often, and I see as it flows under the bridge. But as we speak today, there is a very serious threat to that river because of the water towers, which are on Mount Kenya, Nyambene Regis, and those ones. The tributaries that drain into Tana River are now dry, and therefore the river has very little water. When you combine that with harvesting or harnessing of electricity, then you have a dry river as it meanders past Garissa into the Indian Ocean. What measures is the government putting in place to ensure that, first and foremost, we save the water towers of Mount Kenya and Nyambene Regis? Number two, that we plant trees that are actually friendly to the riverine condition, special trees that will help in preserving water along the Tana River and its tributaries.
Honorable Cherorot, be very brief.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I want to tell the CS that he is equal to the task. And for him to succeed also, he has to make sure that he cuts across the Ministry of Water and Agriculture, because they are interconnected. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the challenge we have in our country is the air pollution, and also the challenge we have is that we have to shop wisely. Because the other day, Mr. Speaker, I was from Nakuru, and I was following another car. And the guy in front of me, the users of that car threw some waste. I think they were eating some food, and then they threw it on the road. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the CS, what are the measures that you are going to put in place to make sure that Kenyans behave wisely and they handle their environment well? Another thing that I want to ask the CS is that what plans do you have? Because you find that in our country, most of the rivers have been neglected. And I want to ask him, what measures is he putting in place to make sure that Kenyans themselves own it and participate, especially by taking care of their environment? Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I want also to say that I'll ask what also measures is he going to make sure that he put in place so that we employ the use of recycle, because there is a problem, reuse and recycle, so that we can be able to manage well our waste, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable TJ, so that the minister, we can dispose of that question. We'll go to the next question and you'll take a bite of that.
Mr. Speaker, many members have...
You will have an opportunity on the next one. The minister has taken already too many members. Order. Proceed.
Mr. Speaker, many members have complimented, congratulated, and expressed a lot of faith in the Cabinet Secretary. So I wouldn't go there. I will just take it where it belongs. But I have to give him worth the distinction that he has in relevance. I think he has attended to this question with a lot of relevance. But so that these questions are not shrouded, I have a lot of respect for members, but they have asked a lot of carry-through questions, which may lose the gist of the question that this minister came here to respond to. I want to pick only 4 aspects of it very quickly, so that the minister is brought back to the questions which are direct to this issue. In question Roman 3 says, what measures are there to address the discharge of effluent into rivers and water sources in the country? And the minister has responded, well so, that one of the things that they have in place is this animal called Nairobi River Commission. I want to take that. Now, Mr. Speaker, the minister aware, of course, I'm sure he is, being a ranking member of this House, who knows legislation making and so on. He knows of Gazette Notice, special issue number 258 of 2nd of December 2022, which created this Nairobi Rivers Commission. And in this notice, the Gazette especially is 14891, which quotes the Climate Change Act and quotes the Environmental Management and Coordination Act. Of course, the issue of the rivers is in the Act of Environmental Management Act. In fact, at that time, the Climate Change Act, you read it all, there is no function at all that is given to Nairobi Rivers Commission. And yet, that is the act upon which this is predicated. But worse, over the page, it is signed by a man that I'm coming to respect, called Honorable the President, William Samoei Ruto. Now, under that act, it is this CS who has the authority to appoint a commission, not the president at all, and it is not delegated function. And number 2, this Gazette Notice must be laid before this House under delegated powers and jurisdiction of this House. And nobody has the power to make law other than this House. I'm sure the minister knows this. And so they create a commission, and yet it is this commission which is driving the policy of cleaning the Nairobi River. I am going to meet him on 15th, but in that 15th, I've asked him to consider disbanding this commission and creating it afresh in a legislative process that is viable. But in this case, he would have to respond and say if, in this question I have asked, that if this commission were to drive this process, that it is dead as dodo, ab initio. Number two, I like what the minister is saying about producer responsibility. In other words, if it is breweries, or if it is sewerage, Nairobi sewerage, or Athi sewerage, they have a responsibility on these river courses. I like that. And is the minister considering creating a more substantive enforcement powers under these commissions or the companies that are responsible? For example, to insist that their balance sheets, there must be an account in which some portion of money in what they make, whether profits or not, is dedicated to the cleaning up of these river courses because of that responsibility which the minister is talking about. The last one is, you see, Honorable Oluoch is on the upper course than me, so he gets polluted before I get polluted in that course as it goes down the road. But you see, there's a neglect of Nairobi River. And so even when you say about dumping, there must be a consistent way of opening up that river course by dredging, and that is not very little money. Dredging the course to keep it open so that the substances as they pass through, including medical affluents, Mr. Speaker, there are a lot of things that Oluoch and I, we see in that river coming from the myriads of clinics. There are more clinics than there are people. I don't know whom they are treating, but there is more clinics than there are people. And all that affluence is coming down the river. So dredging, and then people from a place that I have a lot of respect for, have this affinity of land. When they see land, their body changes. So what they do is that they dump sand. They dump quarry sand on the course of the river so that as much as it is getting constricted, Mr. Speaker, this is very important.
The chair has given you an inordinately long leeway for you to make your case, but don't turn this into a very long speech.
I'm most obliged. I'm most obliged. And you know, you and I are now the remaining ranking members in this House. So, Mr. Speaker, but the point is this, that these people are dumping quarry sand in packets so that the river creates some more land. This is what we learn, him and I. These people from those places, they have an affinity for land. So Mr. Speaker, the CS must know how to dredge this river course and remove all those this dump material so that the river gets back to its course wide and sure, and as it goes down, the water becomes a little loose and more liquid, so that there is a velocity that it flows down the river. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
CS, one serious takeaway, yes, just to add on, yes, is that if I got him right, he's saying, what regulatory, is it going to be a new piece of legislation that's going to give you more teeth than you've had before for you to be able to perform all this raft of very ambitious things, or you can do it through like regulations? Is that right, Mr.? Oh, okay, fair enough.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and you are a ranking member. Maybe TJ follows you, and the Honorable Kamket has not had, because he's not very far from Honorable TJ, but the senior senior ranking member is the Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this House, and Honorable TJ, and you know, the laws are there. The problem in our country is enforcement.
Fair enough.
And I'm going to deal with enforcement. and the man in charge of enforcement, whether it is noise pollution, whether it's waste management, whether it is environmental degradation, Nairobi River, dam sites. If all of us, the leadership, we work together, I want to assure you that the people who have been given the mandate, why does NEMA has police officers and other agencies don't have? It's because how important environment is. So Honorable TJ, I agree with you in creating the Nairobi River legal notice 14891, there are issues. But we are very lucky. I don't want to be accused, but now we have an Attorney General, one of the most brilliant women, I think, in Kenya. I will sit with her when the executive order is signed. Nairobi River comes to my ministry. We will sit with her. We want to work within a legal framework. Secondly, all that you're asking about Nairobi River, the 30-meter riparian size. We will drench Nairobi River. We will build embankments so the river comes back to its course and carry the water. But what I will do, because that presentation was done to His Excellency the President on Monday by our team, I will look for a day. I invite the Nairobi leaders, and we will show you the plan we have. I will not succeed in this ministry without the leaders, without the members of parliament. Honorable Oluoch, Honorable TJ, Honorable Beatrice Alachi, Honorable KJ, I need your support. But I want to assure through the Speaker, Nairobi River will not be the same again. And this is not me saying, it's President William Ruto and the Commander-in-Chief who is saying he has only given me delegated authority. But it's him who said it on Monday, and we have a serious, and that's why we have started with Nairobi River. So we'll fix that. And I agree. You know, the members now have put me in many, many other issues. Let me speak to my good sister from Busia. The flooding control, please, and we have done research, work with KFS and KEFRI, plant more bamboo trees. Bamboo trees have become successful in the control of floodings. We will provide with you, we will go there, let us plant as many bamboo trees as possible. And you will count on me, that's success. The other issue which government did was, it's the same problem we are facing with the Tana River when it floods. As we go, get more money, but I think that we can do it. Because it's an intervention also for restoration of the ecosystem. If you mix it with the indigenous tree species, our honorable women rep, and even planting in the riparian areas, I can tell you that is a quick solution we can start with. On the challenge, Mr. Speaker, on Tana River by the Honorable Munugara, I've missed you. There are times, Mr. Speaker, during our days, it was difficult, if you allow me, during our days it was difficult to impeach a deputy president. And the reason was we had the numbers. We had 145. And you know, if you have 117, you survive. So as we were aligned to William Ruto, we had 145, and Murugara was our lead counsel. So the problem of the challenge of siltation in Tana River is that we need to protect the water catchment areas through planting the right species. Tell the people not to plant eucalyptus. Eucalyptus trees will finish. Secondly, there are too many horticulture and farming, and people are diverting the water at the top of the Abadeas and the other areas. So by the time it's coming to Garissa, Tharaka, Tana River, it meanders and it migrates like the nomads. So even farmers, palms, this month is here, the next month it's in a dry area. And I agree with you, but let's help. Honorable Wino, very good point. I have talked to NEMA, we'll work with the county. We must ensure working with the Department of Physical Planning, and we'll come up with a holistic land use for even our rural part. But the NEMA person on the ground must...
Honorable Olwoch, you are supposed to be listening to the minister because he's answering the things you ask. Proceed, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Honorable Wino, your point is very valid. I will prepare it conclusively, but we will deal with it. There was the issue of the solid waste management. The problem I have, and let me be very frank to the House, most of the challenges we are facing with waste management, noise pollution, environmental issues, all these are devolved. All these are devolved. And nobody in the counties wants to take care. I mean, we must face it. We must face it. And as I talk to you, let me start with Nairobi. And the president has really helped the county government of Nairobi. We will help him in terms of resources because we will not deal with Nairobi River if we don't fix the old debilitated sewer system in Nairobi. So the president has committed that he will first fix the sewer. Because the sewer line is in the river. Even when we want to drench, we will meet the sewer lines. But yesterday, the president has committed, and please, when it comes to the House, the budget, support it. Because we want to fix that sewer line and maintain it properly.
Yeah, I think...
we shall use what you call the expanded responsibility. Honorable TJ, I can tell you, today I want to forgive them. But if I give you the names of the corporations that pollute Nairobi River with their products, some of them, they make billions of profits. So when we bring a restoration fee order that will be domiciled in NEMA, that will be only used to not go to the National Treasury to go and use it to pay debt. It will only be used, and you must amend that, you are good in amendments. It will only be used for environmental restoration and protection. Please support me. You saw it on the newspapers, because we must protect, even as honorable member from Lamu, we must even protect the marine ecosystem. It's very, very important to our country, Mr. Speaker. And you know Lamu very well. Mr. Speaker, as I conclude, Honorable Olwoch, you are a very good man, but please, I am not a Somali minister. I am a Kenyan minister. And that is the oath I took. But you are better, at least you have called me Somali. Some called me warrior, which is very, very demeaning. It's very demeaning. It's better you call me Somali, but not warrior. Warrior is very demeaning. It is a shame. Those people of mine, they have no choice. There are 15 of them who have not complied, the slaughterhouses. 2 have complied. They will not be closed because of competition. And I agree with you. I know who wants to close them. They employ a lot of people. But what I want you to do, the Korean government has given NEMA some facility to deal with affluent, not to come to Nairobi River. I want us, we sit with us in my office with you and NEMA, and we agree on how we help them. Them do the business, and then they don't discharge their affluent to the river. So that I protect your votes, but I protect the environment. You know, and tell them what he said. I think, Speaker, I think, Speaker, I have finished. Yes. We are, the only good thing Honorable Bichi said was, yes, we are working with the Kenya Curriculum Department to mainstream waste management into our school curriculum. We have already written to them so that our children, we teach our kids about waste disposal and waste sustainability. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I have tried.
Yeah, you've done ably,
yes.
and very well answered that question. Now we're going to the last question. The Honorable.
The last one, I think, Mr. Speaker, if you allow me, is on saving our water towers. I think somebody asked, I think it was Honorable Murugara. We are doing fencing, we are doing restoration, we're involving the communities, and we are doing what is called Adapt a Forest Initiative. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Then the last question, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Tigania. Order, honorable members, you will get a bite now. So wait until the question is asked. They're pretty much similar, and I know I've noticed the honorable member for Lamu, the honorable member for Kwanza, the honorable Kamket, all of you will get an opportunity to also weigh in on this. So just relax, hold your horses. Proceed, Honorable Mutunga, and ask the question.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, allow me to thank Honorable Ededwele for very ably answering the questions so far. And since I did not get an opportunity to ask him a question on the past questions that he has answered, if you can allow me, I will first of all start with that, then I ask my question. Allow? I would ask one question.
No. Ask the question. Ask the question first.
Okay, Honorable Speaker.
In the follow-up question, then you can ask.
My question, Honorable Speaker, is
the rules are very, the tradition, yes.
On climate financing. I would like the Minister to explain the structure of climate financing in Kenya while outlining the key actors and the benefits gained through climate financing to fight issues arising from climate change. In other words, to address the issues arising through climate change.
Yes, proceed.
The second question is to elaborate on how carbon credits are quantified and remunerated accordingly in the country and mechanisms in place to ensure that farmers who plant trees qualify for carbon credits.
Very good.
Thank you.
Ministers, yes.
Mr. Speaker, I have a lot of respect for Dr. Mutunga, very professional. When I saw his question, is what I grappled with during my vetting. I had to go and read on carbon credits, what it means. It's a very complicated thing. But Mr. Speaker, I wish to know that Kenya's climate financing structure comprises of a mixed international, national, and private sector financial flows, which are aimed at supporting our country's climate change, both in terms of mitigation and in terms of adaptation efforts. Because those climate financing deal with climate crisis. One is mitigation, the other one is adaptation. And this involves a multi-stakeholder framework. It involves integrated both public and private sector actors. It involves both bilateral and multilateral donors. It involves domestic institutions to channel funds towards addressing climate-related issues. And, Mr. Speaker, the structure of climate finance has key actors. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, allow me to highlight on who are these key actors in climate finance and what are their roles. The first actor is the National Treasury. And the primary duty of the National Treasury is the primary custodian of all matters of climate finance and responsible implementation of our climate finance policy. So whatever we do with our climate finance framework, Number two, the National Treasury role is overall mobilization of climate funds, and they lead. When we go to COP29 in November, they will be the lead people in terms of climate finance negotiation under the United Nations framework for Convention on Climate Change, known as UNFCCC. The other function of the National Treasury is to establish a dedicated climate finance and green economy unit, which they did in 2016, and that unit coordinates, facilitates activities related to climate finance. Also, they are the current implementers in all our counties, I think even in Garissa and in Meru, where you come from. They are the implementers of a fund called Financing Locally Led Climate Action, known as FLOCA program. It's mainly run from the National Treasury, but the main stakeholders are county governments. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the National Treasury as an actor is the Kenya National Designated, the DNA, for Green Climate Fund. The DNA is in my ministry. It is domiciled in NEMA. That's where the register is for carbon market. But in terms of Green Climate Fund, the National Treasury holds the pen. The next group is the National Climate Change Council, ACTA. This is chaired by the President, and myself as the Minister for Environment is the Secretary. We have the Minister for Energy, we have somebody from the academia, we have somebody from the civil society, we have somebody from the marginalized communities, we have somebody representing the youth, and you passed it in the Climate Act Amendment 2 months ago, this House. I am at the stage of establishing that council. So what does this council do as an actor? This council's mandate is to provide legislative and policy direction. So whatever that comes to the House, whether it's a policy or legislative, it emanates. They do supervision, they do oversight, they do guidance on climate change across all levels of government, including even the climate finance mechanism that I've just talked about. It's called the Climate Change Fund. The third actor is the Interministerial Committee on Climate Finance, which was established in 2015 to provide leadership. Their function is to provide leadership on the climate finance activities in Kenya, including the GCF. The Interministerial Committee on Climate Finance is composed of senior technical officers handling climate change, climate finance matters from various ministries, from various departments, from various agencies, and even from the Council of Governors. The fourth actor is my ministry, Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Forestry. What do? We coordinate climate change actions in the country, and we are the focal point for this UNFCCC. We chair this Interministerial Committee on Climate Finance, and we operationalize the entity for Global Environmental Facility, which supports a number of our programs. The fifth actor is NEMA. What does NEMA do? As I said earlier, NEMA is the designated national authority for carbon markets in Kenya. The register is there. They do assessment when there is a carbon market project in your constituency. They analyze, they look at the law, and Mr. Speaker, I want to thank this House. The regulations for carbon market was passed last week, and for the first time, if, for example, there is a carbon offset project in Dr. Mutunga or the Deputy Speaker's, the Speaker's constituency, the community by law will get 40% of the proceeds. And the project will not continue until something called community development agreement is signed. Before, nobody was paying. There were many companies who were getting billions from even our soil carbon, and they were not paying anything. So NEMA is now mandated as a focal point. They co-chair the interministerial, and they do the implementing entity for the adaptation fund, and the direct access entity. Then we have the line ministries and state departments, and then we have the line ministries they must mainstream climate action in planning and budgeting. Then we have the county governments, the establishment of the county climate change funds. Many funds is going to our counties, and I think the Senate has an obligation to make sure that they also audit those funds. In our counties, the mainstreaming of climate action in the counties planning and budgeting process. I think the two final actors is the development partners. What do the development partners do? They have the provision of the climate finance and technical assistance. They include the multilateral, the World Bank, the African Development Bank. We have the bilateral actors, the European Union, the NIDA, USAID, CEDA, AFD, many of them JICA. Then lastly, we have the private sector. And what is their role as an actor in the climate financing? Their investment in low carbon climate resilient in terms of technologies and in terms of action. Kenya Commercial Bank, for example, is accredited by the Global Climate Fund. Equity Bank, Cooperative Bank, they have been nominated for accreditation. Kenya Private Sector Alliance, KEPSA, and Kenya Association of Manufacturers are members of the Interministerial Technical Committee. Speaker, the second, he asked that what is the benefits of financing received? Honorable Speaker, Kenya is mobilizing an average of 300 billion every year on climate finance and climate-related investment from both the public and the private sector. Some of the notable climate funding and projects in Kenya include the IMF Resilient Sustainability Facility of $544 million, the FLOCA program, which I said it is domiciled mainly in our counties, of $295 US, the adaptation fund of $10 million US, the Kenya Smart Agriculture Project, $250 million US, and the Climate Investment Fund, USD 70 million. The climate finance, Mr. Speaker, received by Kenya brings several significant benefits that contribute to the country's effort to mitigate and to adapt to the impacts of climate change. These benefits are many, and they span across environmental, social, economic dimensions. They enhance resilience, they support sustainability, and they contribute to our development. Honorable Speaker, allow me to bring to the attention of the House that as a country, we have a significant climate financing gap, which hinders our ability to fully implement our climate goals, including those outlined in our country's national determined contribution. The full implementation of NDC requires a country to mobilize USD 62 billion. Despite the influx of international and domestic funding, the available financial resources fall short of estimated needs for climate financing. But Mr. Speaker, there are about 4 regulations remaining on climate financing, carbon market, carbon, even the registry, which I'll bring to the House next week. And we should be through, God willingly, before COP29 in Baku. I really want to urge the Committee of Delegated Legislation. They have really helped me when I was in defense, and even here when I'm in environment, We argued our case, and last week they really supported the first regulations. Once we deal with the legal framework, Kenya will be ahead. Kenya will be ahead of many, many countries in Africa in terms of how prepared are we for carbon market. Speaker, the second question, which is the final one, was to elaborate how carbon credits are quantified and remunerated accordingly in the country and mechanism in place. Speaker, this is very technical. So I think Dr. Mutunga might be the only one who will understand. Some of the, like the NDA, what the NDA is, what carbon trading is, what carbon index is, who is qualified, what are the parameters. On the last question, Mr. Speaker, the member seeks our indulgence to elaborate how carbon credits are quantified and to state mechanism in place to ensure tree planting farmers qualify. There's a member who asked me last week if my car is old and is polluting, I told him, in fact, you're supposed to pay. Well, this carbon thing is like, for example, the big corporations in the West, like airlines, because they are polluting, they are the polluters. We are the victims. So we trade in. We plant trees, then they offset that with the pollution. So, Mr. Speaker, it's good to define simple terms what a carbon credit is. This is a unit of exchange that individuals and firms alike use to offset their greenhouse gas emissions. Farmers who plant trees can qualify for carbon projects by participating in what we call agroforestry or restoration initiatives, where carbon credits are generated based on the amount of carbon sequestered by the trees over time. Mr. Speaker, one important requirement for farmers to consider the trees planted for this specific purpose of sequestering carbon have to be on the land for a long time to ensure permanency on carbon sequestered. Allow me to elaborate the process involved. A baseline scenario is first established to estimate how much carbon could have been stored in the absence of the project. Farmers, this could mean assessing the current land use or the vegetation before tree planting. Then farmers plant trees which capture and store carbon, what they call the carbon sink as they grow. The amount of carbon is then monitored periodically based on a tree species, on growth rates or area covered. Once the carbon is verified, carbon credits are issued based on the amount of carbon dioxide absorbed. One carbon credit represents sequestration of 1 metric ton of carbon dioxide equivalent. So farmers are remunerated, or they are paid, based on the sale of these carbon credits in carbon markets. The price of carbon credits can vary depending on market demand and the type of the project. A project developer or a farmer who wishes to engage in a carbon project shall first apply to the DNA through the register domiciled in NEMA for approval of the carbon project. The procedure for developing a carbon project are detailed in the Climate Change as Amended Act Carbon Markets Regulations, which was gazetted via Kenya Supplement, Kenya Gazette 105. So, Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Member for Tigania constituency marks as the end of his question, and I was to respond. But allow me that I will take time, he's my good friend, and ask even my team to take him through. Once we finish with the legal framework, this carbon market is going to benefit a lot of our people. And we have made sure 40% if a carbon market project is brought to your constituency, 40% of the proceeds must go. And I'm happy in Wajir North, the Honorable Sane has written to me, and we will gazette the forest. The man in charge of forest is